Hello everyone, it's Paige and welcome back to my YouTube channel and a very happy new year. I cannot believe that it is 2025. Last year flew by. It was funny, I was just watching my 2024 New Year's resolutions and I posted on here and I thought it'd be fun to look at that video and recap everything. But while I was watching that video, I realized that I was kind of all talk. There were some things that I did accomplish and that I did do, one of them being made my bed every single morning, and I got pretty nasty at golf, which was exciting. But besides that, I felt like I was just talking, and these are things that I wanted to do, but I just didn't really have the heart or the passion to really get them done. And I'm going to explain that a little bit more because I thought it'd be fun to do just like a little sit down video and explain kind of where I've been mentally and what I kind of want out of all of this and really what I've been sitting in and reflecting on, and that'd just be a fun little chat to have because I have been doing this now for such a long time, and I am so grateful for this audience and this community and everything that has happened to me over these now in 2025. In July of 2025, it's going to be 10 years that I've been doing this. A decade. So I just thought it'd be fun to reflect and just talk about like what else I want to do with all of this. So let's get right on into it. Okay, so let's start from the beginning because a lot of you know the story, but I think it's always interesting to run it back. So this was the summer of 2015. I was at SDSU. I had one semester left. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I was in limbo with my life. After I finished my senior year at SDSU, I put my clubs away for a little bit and I didn't want to play golf anymore. I had a very complicated relationship with the game of golf, which I've talked about and you guys know. And I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. I always dreamt of being a professional athlete. And I started with gymnastics first, transitioned into golf, and all I ever wanted to do was play on the LPGA Tour and be a professional athlete. And so when I got to my senior year of college and I realized that maybe I just didn't have the passion for it, or I was just lacking the passion at that time, it was really disheartening because it's everything that you've worked for such a long time, all of the sacrifice, and it just wasn't happening in the way that I envisioned it. And so I was really down on myself. Because when you do dedicate a lot of your life to playing golf or any sport at a high level, you don't get really the opportunity to explore outside of your craft. And so unlike a lot of other kids and college students, and I never had a summer job, I wasn't able to get an internship, everything that I was doing in my life was be a professional athlete. So when I got to this point, I realized that maybe it wasn't going to happen. I freaked out. I had no purpose. I had no idea what I wanted to do. I didn't know what my skill set was because I just never had an opportunity to be able to pursue anything outside of playing golf at a high level. And so when it was during the summer and I sat down with my parents and I was like, what do? I have no financial backing. I have no career opportunities on the horizon. I had no idea. The plan was to go back to SDSU, finish out my semester because I transferred, so I lost some credits, and I would be the assistant golf coach, which was something that I did really enjoy. I loved teaching, and even during that summer, I was running junior golf camps and caddying, and I've always had a passion for golf and also for teaching. I love teaching. And so my dad was like, well, why don't you just give it a summer of playing and just see what happens? And then my whole life got flipped upside down. So I had just won, I will never forget this day, I had just won the Colorado Match Play Tournament, which was it's a big deal in your state. They always have these state opens. And I won. I was so excited. And it was honestly the best golf that I had ever played. I felt really good about my game. I felt really good about where I was in golf. And like I had a path and I felt like I was going in the right direction. I was sitting at a frozen yogurt shop with my mom after I won, and this is something that we would always do, regardless if I played good or bad. We would always get ice cream or frozen yogurt after. And my phone was flipped over and it was buzzing like crazy. And that never really happens on my phone. And so I flipped it over and I am just getting bombarded by Instagram notifications and text messages. And one of my friends texted me and he said, "You just got featured on Total Frat Move." And Total Frat Move was basically this huge college guy website, Barstool before Barstool became Barstool. And so someone wrote an article about me and it ended up going viral. I went from having 500 followers to 100,000 followers overnight. News outlets were reaching out to me, companies were reaching out to me, and this was really the start of the influencer culture in other industries, so like fashion and beauty and lifestyle and fitness, but it really hasn't transferred over to sports yet, and especially golf. So there was no golf influencers. I didn't know what that was. That wasn't a career. And so all of this really started out of necessity. I wanted to play golf. I had no money, and these companies were reaching out and saying, "Hey, if you do some social promotion or if you help us on the media side, we'll give you golf clubs, or we'll give you this, or we'll give you that." And I was like, I need it. I have no money. I have nothing. Like, I'll do it. And I ended up getting an invite to this European tour event in Dubai. I was in the fetal position and I was sobbing uncontrollably when all of this was happening because I've talked about this before, but I'm a very introverted person. And for this all to be happening, I was highly overstimulated. It was very overwhelming. I had no media training. I had no idea what was going on. There wasn't anyone who had done this before me, so I couldn't even reach out to anyone for any words of advice. Like, this was not a normal thing back then in 2015 in sports and especially in golf. So I felt very alone. Just confused by all of it as well. I was struggling with low self-esteem and I didn't feel worthy of all of this attention as well. I was 21 years old and it just was happening so fast and I had to take advantage of it out of necessity. I didn't know what I was doing and there was so much good that came out of it, but I also learned a lot. So I thought it'd be fun to talk about that and kind of how things have transformed over the years. One of the most amazing things that happened was this incredible community that has been a part of my life for now 10 years. And it almost brings me to tears to think about because I was at a point in my life where I had no confidence, no direction in my life. I was lost and I needed you and you were there for me, and that means so much to me. I'm even getting a little choked up talking about it now because my life has completely changed and I would not be able to do any of this without you, and I'm so grateful and so blessed for that. And I just always want to take the time to thank you because without you, I wouldn't be able to do what I do. You have changed me in so many ways. I'm a completely different person than I was when I started this, and a lot of it has to do with the amount of encouragement and support and love that you all give me daily. And it's not lost on me that I would have no job if I didn't have your support. And although there is sometimes negativity and bad feedback, you're always there also to defend me and to support me. And I am so incredibly grateful. I see so many people do what I do, and as soon as they get a little taste of success or fame or notoriety, they completely lose sight of what's important. And what's important is the community. And you're my community and you matter to me. And everything I do and everything I have done throughout my entire career has been with you in mind. Is this a brand that you would like? Is this a video that you would like? Will you like these pictures? Is this new? Is this interesting? And I always think of you. And I just want you to know how grateful I truly, truly am for you. And I try to express that as much as I can without it being cheesy or annoying. But I get frustrated when other content creators or influencers lose sight of that, because you are what matters. You keep this going. And I am eternally grateful for everything that you have done to transform my life, transform me as a person, and the bond and the friendships that we have made along the way. It's like family. And I always say that. I always say that my community is my family and my friends, and that when I wake up in the morning, you're the first person to wish me a happy birthday or happy holidays or to congratulate me on an accomplishment. You are the most supportive friend that I've ever had, and I'll stop because I know I can keep gushing over and over and over about how amazing you are, but I just felt like that had to be said, because as we're coming on this 10-year anniversary, everyone always said that, my 15 minutes would be up, and it's 10 years later and this is still chugging along and it's all because of you. So, thank you. And because of that, I really want to keep growing as a creator. And I feel that in the last couple years, I wouldn't say that I was burnt out, but I think I was a little beat down by the industry and the game that you have to play, and the people within the game, and it can be exhausting. And when you think about all of those other factors in this industry, you lose sight of, again, what matters. And what keeps this chugging along is the community. And that's what matters. And I just know that I need to keep feeding the community. And I think over the last couple of years, I could have done a better job with that. I felt like at times maybe I was just going through just frustration because of other things that were happening in my life. And so I'm really excited for this year to be able to create and do things that are fun and interesting, and to make sure that you can see the love in what I'm doing. And it's a way of me to give back as best that I can, and it will never be enough to say thank you. But if I can keep creating good content and to keep putting a smile on your face, then that's my way of thanking you for everything that you have done to change me as a person. Okay, so we are done being sentimental for now at least. So throughout these 10 years, I think one thing that was the biggest lesson that I learned is that being emotional is okay, and it's good to be vulnerable. When I first started doing this, it was at a time where on social media, it was all about showing off your accomplishments. How hot you were, how much money you had, how great your relationship is, how big your house was. Like, it was all about showing off things that maybe you had or even you didn't have. And when I first started doing this, I had no idea what I was doing. And I was this insecure, emotional 21-year-old with no media training and no path to follow. And so what I did instead is that I was brutally honest about who I am as a person, and I was also highly emotional. And there are things that, like, I look back on that because for a little bit, I thought it was a negative that I was emotional or that I was very vulnerable when I first started this out, because still to this day, people will bring up the fact that I like play the victim and I cry, and that I, cried at the press conference, and these things that had happened that I spoke out about revenge porn, and there were things that were happening to me that I spoke about, but I was a bit vague about it, and so people just thought that I was sad that people were like sexualizing me, and that's really never what it was about at all. But I did cry, and I did talk about it, and it put me in a vulnerable position. And there were so many times where people reached out to me that either a sponsor did this, a bunch of people were like, this is a really bad look and you need to stop crying and you need to stop talking about these things. Like, no one wants to hear that you have anxiety, and no one wants to like see you crying and you look weak. And I like regretted the fact that I showed vulnerability, but I think that the reason I have the community that I have is that I was so open and honest, and you know the good and a lot of the bad about me. And I think it just made the community stronger. Being yourself, being authentic to who you are, and being vulnerable is important. And we're seeing that more and more on social media, which I do love, because we're talking about topics that were once taboo, that people have struggled with before, and now so many people are being open and honest and vulnerable, and it's changing lives. And that is so incredibly cool, and I love that. That's one of my favorite things about social media, is the bond and the relatability, because sometimes we are stuck in our own emotions and we don't know how we're feeling or going something. We feel often alone with our feelings. And then you see someone who is able to verbalize out loud how we are feeling, and you feel seen for the first time. And that's a really special feeling. And I did that without even knowing that I was doing that. And I don't regret that anymore. I'm actually so happy that I was vulnerable, and I continue to be vulnerable. Not as vulnerable as I once was, because with vulnerability comes the openness of other people's opinions, and that can be quite hard. And so over the last couple years, I've been a little bit more closed off, I would say. And I want to change that. I want to be a little bit more open than I have been in the previous years. I was dealing with a lot in my personal life and professionally, and I just felt it was better to keep it close to my chest. And no pun intended. But what made me, I think, really raw and authentic was that vulnerability. And that's a huge part of who I am as a person. And so you're gonna see more of that in 2025. Another thing that I did a lot that was a defense mechanism was I would constantly talk down about myself and publicly, and I make fun of myself. And I think it's important to not take yourself seriously and to take the piss, but there is a line, and I feel like I started to cross that line where I would say this too, like, my social media accounts was the biggest troll on myself. I was mean to myself, and I started to diminish accomplishments that I had, and I made myself smaller to make other people who didn't matter feel bigger. And so I decided to no longer do that, and I've been working on that myself, where I am proud of the accomplishments. My foot just fell asleep, and I have like the worst pins and needles right now, so I'm trying not to move, because if I make any sudden movements, my foot feels like it is just being stabbed to death. 1 second, we're gonna work through this. This is the most uncomfortable feeling. Pins and needles is one of the most uncomfortable feelings in the entire world. That and hitting your funny bone. Two things that I very much dislike. Okay, it's feeling better. So I digress. Oh yeah, we were talking about like being down on myself. So I would poke fun at myself. I think I was doing this because of people were saying that I was constantly playing the victim and I wasn't self-aware. And I've always been self-aware. I've always been on the joke, on the bit, the gag, you know? And that is part of my entire brand. It's this humor and the self-awareness. and that I do play into it. And I'm not ashamed of that. I love it. I think it's fun. I think people should have fun on social media, but it doesn't mean that I have to like rip on myself constantly to make that point. I can still be self-aware and I can still have fun, but I don't have to be mean to myself. And so I've been starting to talk about more of my golf accomplishments or things that like, I'm actually a good player. And for years, I let people tell me that I wasn't. And I allowed that narrative to spin out of control. And not only was I allowing it to spin, I was also, you know, adding fuel to the fire. I'm over there just like drenching it. And I was having fun with it. But they took it as I was admitting to the truth that I wasn't a good golfer. But like factually, I am a good golfer. And I don't want that ever to get lost in any of this, because I think that having fun with your persona and your brand is important, but there needs to be substance behind it. And my substance is playing golf at a high level and being a good golfer and being highly knowledgeable about this game. And I think that that is important to talk about. I think it's important for everyone to, one, be self-aware and have fun, but also to not let others make you feel like you haven't accomplished anything, or to make you feel bad about maybe you haven't accomplished enough. Like, be proud of the accomplishments that you do have. And so that's something that I've been trying to do, and that has changed over the years, where I felt so strongly about being self-aware that I actually started to be really, really mean to myself. And no more of that for me, and also for you. Don't be mean to yourself anymore in 2025. We're gonna be nice to ourselves. It's not a bad thing to be confident. It's not a bad thing to build yourself up. I see this all the time on social media when someone says something about their accomplishments, or you can talk about that, and that's okay. Don't let anyone make you feel bad about that. Another thing that I have learned is that collaborating is important, but there's also a downside to it. I have always really I was burned pretty bad very early on in my career. And so I made a point to just kind of stick to myself. And I didn't have really any friends in the industry. I was always friendly with people. I think anyone who has met me throughout my career will probably say the same thing, where like I thought she was going to be a raging at first, and because I do have, you know, when I get nervous in social situations, I stand there and I look like this, and it's only because I'm freaking out inside because I have social anxiety. But I'm very warm and friendly when you approach me, but I'm never going to be the first one to approach just because I'm so nervous about it. And so I think a lot of people would say the same thing about me. I thought she was going to be this one way. I meet her. She's really kind. And I've always had like good interactions with people for the most part. But I never really went out of my way to collaborate with other people. And so I often would just stay to myself, stay in my own lane, try not to bother anyone else, and just stick to what I was doing. And obviously that works, but there is an importance to collaborating with other creators, and I understand that, and I have been starting to do that more. And what's interesting is I've made friendships along the way, which is really cool, and I am putting myself out there more within the industry, and things that I thought about maybe certain people are not true. I've also learned that, should I say this? Not all creators are what they seem in person. And I think I'm one of the unique creators where I produce a more like risque version of myself, where I come off as being this like rebellious party girl, like what I wear, and you have this image of me in your head, and I'm very drastically like different from that. And then you have people who paint themselves the complete opposite, and in person, they're really freaking rude. And I have gone out of my way to try to say hi, be nice, and collaborate. And they look down on me because of like what I wear. And that very much goes against their values, which I find interesting. But that's always been hard too, because I feel that I'm one of the OGs in this industry. And not that you have to give me respect, but you can at least, when I say, hi, I'm Paige, you don't just walk away. And that has happened. And so that's hard too, where it's like, it's like exposure therapy when you have to like go through things that make you stressed out. Like there's no worse feeling than going up to someone and trying, like going out of your comfort zone to say hi, and then them not even acknowledging you. Like not even saying hi and walking away, but literally turning around and walking the other way. It's horrible. And another thing I've seen too is like someone is so cool when they first come into this, and then it goes to their head a little bit, and then they become a completely different person. It always comes back around. You gotta wait a couple of years, but it will always come back around. But it's hard when like someone is so genuine and cool, and you see the industry and the fame, whatever you want to call it, money. It's mostly money that like changes people, change who they are, and then you like lose them completely for a while. And they're not the same person. They talk differently, they act differently, they have a different group of people surrounding them. And I've seen this, because I've been doing this now for such a long time, happen over and over and over and over again. And they always come back around at some point, hopefully, usually. But it's tough. Like it's a hard industry to like keep your head on straight. And you need a really good support system around you. So it's just, there's a lot of politics involved, and it's like, I want to collaborate. Sometimes it's hard to collaborate, and then everyone has schedules, and we're all like creatives, and so like scheduling things is hard. But that's the goal for 2025, is to try to collaborate with more people, and hopefully some of them unblock me. Another thing that I have learned that I'm grappling with, and I'd actually like your opinion on this one, because I started in golf, and I have a strong golf community, and I love golf, and I love being in golf, I love creating for golf, but I also have other interests, like a lot of other interests. And I don't know if I should venture out and start to explore those other interests and share those on here, or if this should just solely be a golf page, because I've always felt very strongly that when brands try to deviate from their core audience, that's the worst thing that a brand can do. I think you need to know your audience, you need to love your audience, and you need to create content for your audience. And so a lot of the hobbies that I have are adjacent to sports and like to golf, so I think it'll be fine. But I want to explore that, because I think that it would just add more depth to my content. But I also don't want to like lose you in the process. And so I'm interested to know, would you like to see different types of content, ideas, hobbies, interests that I might have? So comment down below if that's something that does interest you, or if you'd like for me to just really lean into golf and have that just be it. All golf all the time. Golf, golf, golf. Or would you like to have some other stuff? Because I've noticed that when I've like, even on Instagram, I've had a hard time creating content there recently, because I don't really know, like I know golf, like you guys want golf content, but then when I post golf content, you ask for other content. And so I just want to make sure that, you know, I am doing content that you like and that is interesting to you. So that's something that I'm kind of going back and forth, because I've always felt that like a brand shouldn't deviate. You can grow within that brand, you can get better at what you do, but the core of what you do should always be consistent, or you're going to lose your audience in the process. And I don't want to lose you. So I just want to make sure that I am doing the right thing. So comment down below on what you think. I'm trying to think of anything else, and all I can think about is how amazing these last 10 years has been, how thankful I am that you have stuck around for this long. It can be a little annoying at times, and you were like, that's our girl, we love her anyways, and that means the world to me. How I want to be the best version of myself. I want to push myself outside my comfort zone. I want to create more. I want to collaborate more. I want to try new things. And I feel that I'm in the best headspace I've possibly been in, and we're in 2025 now. And I feel very energized by the opportunities that are in front of me and potential opportunities and where I can take this and what I want to do with it. It's still an ever-changing landscape, and so it's fun to always be challenged and to not really know where this map is going to lead me, and that you're along this journey with me, and I love that. I want to also, I didn't mention this, I want to just get super physically fit and again, still nasty at golf. Those are two things I want to do. I think that's it. So, thank you for watching this video, for being along this incredible, crazy journey of mine. Don't forget to leave a comment down below, like today's video, subscribe to my channel because I really want to hit 500,000 this year. I think that'd be pretty cool. So if we can get to 500,000 subscribers, I mean, ultimately, this is a big goal, but I've always wanted to have 1 million across all the platforms. I think that's super cool because I have it on Facebook and X and Instagram. I have to do Snapchat. I have Snapchat if you want to follow me on Snapchat, but and here. So that's a fun kind of crazy goal I have. So if you want to help that, make sure that you subscribe, and you can follow me on Snapchat or any of my other social platforms. And if you have any other ideas of different types of content you want to see, you can comment down below. And that is all. I'll see you guys next time. Mwah!